Hey everybody, welcome to the Mohawk Matters News Week in Review. I'm editor Chris Pugh. As always, have Guy Vogrin, longtime journalist, Trumbull County Prosecutor's Office worker. How you doing, Guy?
Good to speak to you this week, Chris. It seems like we had trouble connecting on a few occasions, but we finally got together. Today is a beautiful spring day in the valley,
Yeah,
and there's a lot of road construction going on in Warren downtown. It seems like I couldn't get to the parking lot this morning. It took me a while to get to work.
yeah, we had some news about that. A lot of construction in Trumbull and Mahoning. I guess the
Right.
warmer the weather comes,
Right,
traffic
out come
season's
the
coming.
orange barrel. So
Yes.
keep keep tab of Mahoning Matters for the latest road updates.
Yeah, Kelsey had a story about the latest, and I think we had a story in about what was happening downtown Warren too. So, yeah, very interesting. A couple light stories today, which is good. It's always good to have some light stuff to talk about. This weekend is the Youngstown State commencement, and there is a woman 76 who's going to be graduating. She started her academic career at Youngstown State in 1966.
Wow.
Um, she got a teaching position offered, so she left school early. Went to Beaver Local, and life happened. She had business for a while. The business kind of went. Uh, she decided to drop the business after COVID. Like so many times that happens,
Right.
and now she's going back to Youngstown State.
And it looks
Um,
like she successfully got a degree as she'll
yeah,
be marching up there to get her diploma on Saturday.
yeah, it's through the prior learning assessment. So kind of neat. I'm excited to hear about it. I mean, it's never too late to learn, and it's really neat that she was able to conclude her graduation. Um,
They used to call those non-traditional students, but nowadays I think there's as many people going back to college later in life than there are just going straight after high school. You're seeing more and more people, dive right into the business world or go take a few years off and find themselves. They like to say.
yeah, so I mean, she's got some options. She's 76 now, but just excited to see what she's able to do. So very good. I'm proud of her. Diane Lidra Dole is going to be graduating, and she's going to be graduating with a bachelor's degree in general studies. So very good.
Yep. This is the year, the season of graduations. I know high schools are starting their proms, so drive safely as the party season is also going to get underway.
Yeah, definitely. Our the high school graduations are coming up later this month. Got Youngstown State. Yeah, just stay safe out there. I think that's the most important thing we can say. I know I said we were going to be late, but I need to mention this is another thing going on. I know Kelsey's working on a story about this right now. There's a group that's still upset about Bill Johnson.
Oh,
It's interesting. Um, we haven't covered Bill Johnson on a day by day basis. I mean, that's not really what we do as journalists. We cover Youngstown State. I've heard and seen Bill Johnson a couple times out about at Youngstown State. Um, there's been nothing major that's happened. I would say that would make us wrinkle our noses. But the group that was opposed to Bill Johnson definitely wanted to speak out about it. They're going to have a rally on Friday. They're going to. I think the big thing is, I guess Ed O'Neill sent them the copy of his honorary degree, so they're going to burn that at a ceremony. So that's
oh
kind of their
my!
way of
This,
protesting
this
what's
is the
happening.
season for campus protests. Also,
Yes, yes.
much more serious matters in the bigger campuses, as many people have known if they've followed the national news in the last week. But that's going to be an interesting rally at YSU.
Yeah, yeah, and again, you have the
It'd
right
be
to protest.
interesting to see how many people show up.
Yeah, and again, I mean, students have a right to protest. It's definitely part of what they do. It'll be interesting to sit there and say, what are they doing in addition to protesting Bill Johnson? Is there something they're doing to make the campus better. I think as we cover that, it'd be neat to hear kind of what's kind of the next step. I mean,
Right.
it seems like Youngstown State's made their decision. They're moving forward with it. I know a lot of people have different opinions on it, and that's okay. I mean, it's okay to oppose something. I just like to see what's the next step then. If they've already picked him, unless some big scandal comes out, he's going to be your president for a while. But what's the next step for some people? And we'll probably hear that on Friday when they have their rally. So,
And another thing, to go along with that, we'll be hearing more about the special election in June to pick Bill Johnson's successor in Congress.
yeah, I'm getting a lot of emails from Michael Rowley's, challenger. Apparently, there was some question, again, allegation right now. And he gave a speech that allegedly was written by a lobbyist, and that's got some people rankled up. So I think that election's probably going to get louder as we speak.
Yeah,
I'll tell
I
you.
have a feeling anytime there's an open seat to grab, there it can, have a lot of competition.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't want to. We're kind of going divergently from our script of what we're going to
Right.
talk about, but um,
It's that
it,
kind of week.
yeah. Well, this came up in some of our news conversations. It was interesting. Um, we have a limited staff, and politics mean a lot at Youngstown. We don't really have the capacity of covering state races all over the state. Kind of our thought is when they come to Youngstown, we'll definitely cover it because it's definitely who we are. It's part of what we do.
Right.
Um,
And with Sherrod Brown and Bernie Marino's race heating up, I'm sure we're going to see a lot of visits from those two.
yeah, but I'll tell you, guys, this is why I bring this up. We are seeing and hearing a lot from Sherrod Brown. We're
Right.
not hearing much from Bernie Moreno. I gotta be frank. And again, this column is kind of like my open editorial page, so I definitely wanted to kind of share that a little bit. Um, it was hard to get hold of somebody from Bernie Moreno's camp. And, as a journalist, I've always learned if you cover a speech or a presentation, give the other side a chance to talk. And I remember in the good old days, I know I covered George W. Bush often. And one year I covered John Edwards when he was running as a vice presidential candidate against George W. Bush.
Right.
You would get press releases from the other side and
Oh
they would
yeah.
know you're there and they would say, look, here is our reaction, our response. And it was standard form for us to add that. Well, it
Right.
was interesting. Sherrod Brown, he was up in Youngstown, I think it was about a week or two ago. Well, no, it wasn't even him. It was AFL CIO. And they were concerned about some allegations made against Bernie Moreno. So they spoke at a plant, and they were kind of, supporting Sherrod Brown and speaking ill Bernie Moreno. I'll tell you, it was funny, and we don't routinely cover the senatorial race unless it comes to Youngstown. I could not find contact information for Bernie Moreno's spokespeople.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, because usually during a major campaign, I mean, they come after you. You don't have to sit there and say,
Right.
I wonder who this person is. And to Marino's credit, I found them, got in touch, and this person and I have communicated a couple times. We've used some of her quotes with us. But, you know, I'm getting the vibes that I got like I did the last senatorial election with Tim Ryan and JD Vance. I mean, if you look at it just on paper, and again, we don't pick sides or support anybody, but Tim Ryan was in the U.S. House for 20 years. JD Vance was a newer person. If you just
Right.
look at experience, you would think, wow, man, Tim Ryan's going to win that. Well, JD Vance won. And Ohio is still a very Republican state. Trump won the last presidential election by 8 points. And it's funny, you see from a political side, Bernie Moreno doesn't get out a ton. And I think when Bernie Moreno comes out, he's out to kind of his core base, which is understandable and everything. It's really interesting because you're seeing almost, I get the perception that Sherrod Brown is scrambling a lot more. And I think maybe he's looking back to the last race with, Tim Ryan and
I,
JD
I
Vance
agree.
saying, this is the same.
Right, I agree. I think Tim kind of took this valley a little bit for granted because it was
Right.
his home, and it ended up to come back and bite him. Because if he would have got any kind of vote total here, he may have won. But it ended up that Vance ended up carrying both Mahoning and Trumbull County. Uh,
Well,
and
and
so I think Sherrod Brown's going to school with that, and that's why we're seeing a lot of Sherrod Brown here in
and
the
again,
Valley.
I'm not going to reveal who I vote for. That's immaterial. But
Right.
I'll tell you, I think Bernie Moreno wins in November. I mean,
Yeah,
I'll say it. I mean,
I would think he would be favored just because of the boost of the Trump influence there and Trump's popularity in Ohio.
yeah,
It's going to be an uphill fight for Sherrod Brown, but I won't count Sherrod Brown out. I've
well,
done that before.
right, and the strange thing about it is like we're talking about Sherrod Brown like he's the well, I mean, I think he is the underdog, and I think it's just because
Right,
of where the state is right now, and
right.
it's wild because you see him traveling around a lot. I don't hear anything from the Marino camp, and again, I guess if I was a communications person from Marino, I'd probably do the same thing. You know, you've got your votes. If if someone doesn't like Trump, you're probably not going to win them. So it's almost like a stay in your lane, and just keep that up. So I
But
know
that
it's
kind of strategy can backfire because Ryan did that here with these votes. He stayed in his lane, so to speak, here and didn't really cultivate the valley like he
right,
should have, and he lost it because of the not so much of the Trump voter. I think there was and Vance tapped into it, the discontent for Ryan here locally.
right,
I kind of got tired of him. And maybe the same thing will be for Sherrod Brown. Ohioans will be tired of Sherrod Brown and want a new face or voice. But, the performance of J.D. Vance as senator is very, can be telling in this race also. It seems like J.D. has put himself out there as a vice presidential candidate, especially
right.
with his comments in the media late in the last week.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I wonder if, maybe Ohioans are looking at Vance as a template because Vance wasn't really a career politician at all. So,
Right.
you put JD Vance and you sit there and say, oh, what's he going to do? What's going to happen? And, rightly or wrongly, I mean, like you said, Vance has put himself out there. He's made a lot of statements. I think he's trying to come off at least like a politician so people aren't like, hey, who's this guy? What the heck is he doing? Again, they're totally different people. Because Vance can pull off doesn't mean Marino can. I don't know. It's just really strange because I just assumed that Tim Ryan will win last time just because he's known, he's been there for 20 years.
Right.
But I mean, it's just Sherrod Brown's in the same boat. I think he's in trouble. And again, I think says nothing about what type of center Sherrod Brown is or if he's good, bad, or upside down. I think you're in a progressively red state and it troubles me. Well, troubles is probably way too strong of a word, but you're losing to someone just based on the fact where the other person. I mean, yeah, he's making comments, but his comments are more pretty much, "Hey, I support that guy." He just points at Trump.
Right,
When
and the voter demographics is changing, especially here. I mean, this used to be an industrial area with lots of union backing. That's no longer
yeah,
here. And Cleveland is not the union town it used to be, which was another Democratic stranglehold. And to the other industrial areas, Toledo. It seems like Columbus now, with the campus being is the Democratic hotbed in Ohio right now.
well, I mean, in Ohio, really, if you just look at cities, I mean, Democrats have about 85% of the vote. It's just in the rural areas, I mean, Republicans have really dominated in there, and
Well, the suburbs though have turned Republican,
yeah,
like
yeah. Oh no, that's
here.
all. Yeah,
Boardman, Canfield. I mean, just look at Ruleigh's support is coming from Boardman, Canfield, and Poland, Austintown also. It helps that he has big grocery stores in Boardman and Austin towns, and he's well known. in the community. He had a built-in grassroots campaign there because his face is shown in when you go to buy your chicken and eggs and milk and bread.
Right. Well, and I think in the Ruley case, you're not hearing Ruley come out as much because Ruley seems to have a bigger lead. So the Democrat
Yeah,
candidate's gonna be like, "Hey, we got to swing big to try to
right.
fight into it."
Yeah,
And
and it's interesting, Moreno, taking for granted a little bit, and that's a dangerous thing to do, especially with the Mahoning Valley voter who tends to like to be pampered.
yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I just think, and it's not gonna last forever. But man, the Republicans have such a command that
Right.
I'll be intrigued. I mean, people are saying this could be one of the more intriguing Senate races in November, and I agree, especially for us here in Ohio. I
Because Brown is a good campaigner, and he's done it statewide since the '80s. He was Secretary of State in the late '80s, so he knows how to run, and he knows Ohio. But has Ohio changed?
There's got to be a better campaign strategy, though. I mean, again, this is my editorial, so this is why we're talking like this. But it was interesting. We got contacted by the Brown campaign, and they were trying to make the idea like the fentanyl, was passed this week. Big
Right.
deal. Sherrod Brown, and that's why Sherrod Brown was in to kind of celebrate the passing of it. And it was interesting because before it passed, in the push to try to get votes, making sure everything was okay, it was attached to the bigger Ukraine support bill.
Right.
And it was interesting because, Bernie Moreno, is part of the sect of the Republican Party that says, "Hey, look, we're not going to support this." Well, I
Right.
was getting press releases from the Brown campaign saying, "Well, maybe Bernie Moreno doesn't support stopping fentanyl because he's against this." No, it's part of a larger Ukraine bill. Like when you vote for it, you're voting
Right.
for Ukraine, and Moreno has been
Right. That
historically
that
against more
Ukraine
support.
issue will be a little bit different. The Trump voter typically would be going against aid to Ukraine, but in Ohio you have a large Ukrainian American population.
Right.
So that would be the little twist there to
Well,
take a look at. And Sherrod Brown, if he's a good campaigner, which I think he is, may tap into that.
I don't know if it was a Sherrod Brown strategy or if it was one of his campaign workers, but you can't criticize Moreno for being like supporting fentanyl because he's not supporting Ukraine. I
I
mean,
understand that. Yeah.
yeah, I had talked to my reporter saying that you can't say that, and it was amazing because she's like, "Well, I keep hearing," and then I actually got email from one of Brown's people asking that. I'm like, "No, you cannot say that." I mean,
Right. Right.
and
But
it took
that's the trick of just adding on things to the bills
right.
that the people got to be careful what they're voting for.
Well, and they took a tweet where Marina was critical of the Ukraine support. I'm like, look, that tweet said nothing about fentanyl. It said Ukraine. You can't make that logical leap.
Right.
It was just,
Right.
it was crazy. So I'm really intrigued by the race. Like I said, if I had to, and why would you bet on senatorial races? But I think Marina's got the lead right now. So
And the control of the Senate will hang in the balance there.
yeah, it's going to be pretty close. And
I
I
mean,
think this will
this
be,
is a great state to flip Republican.
yeah, and well,
Because
and
the
if
last time in the Ryan race, it was for the seat for the Republican Portman successor. So it wasn't a flipping.
well, you
This one will flip.
Well, you got to think too. If Maria's placing all support on Trump, if Trump is a strong candidate, Maria's going to do well. If
Right.
Trump starts to falter, Maria's not going to do well. So you could kind of look at like how the polling is going for that race to kind of figure out who's going out, what's going on statewide. A real quick national question. Okay, yeah, it's in all likelihood it's going to be Trump against Biden in the presidential race. I wonder what it's going to take. And I think I can answer this already saying I think we're too far down the road. But President Biden's getting a little bit older. Some people are criticizing his faculties. Is he equipped enough to serve for 4 years? Whatever the
Right.
case might
And
be.
anybody that's pays attention to X will see a daily
Right.
little blurb of Biden being confused.
Well, and the thing is you're seeing that somewhat even in the Biden camp. I know,
Right.
you know, Republicans and Trump fans have jumped on it as a political thing, but sometimes Biden's people have questioned it too. Um, and you kind of wonder. I mean, I know Trump has painted his court cases to be like a witch hunt against them, and it's not fair. But in all likelihood, by the time we're really getting to the election season, I mean, Trump might be in jail. And I
Yeah.
kind of wonder, can you? Here's what I'm thinking, Guy. And, it's going to take a miraculous can to come out of nowhere. But I wonder if there's anybody in the National Democrat or Republican caucuses who are saying, could we find someone else just in case? I mean, I know you
Right.
can campaign
And
for
and I'm
president in
sure as
jail,
the,
and
the the nominating conventions get closer this summer, that's going to be an issue that we're going to keep hearing about. It's going to
well,
be
I mean,
coming up.
I
Both
think
Trump's criminal problems, his legal problems, and Biden's age, those whispers will come out and out shouts maybe by the time the convention will be in August, late August, maybe early September.
Well, I think it
Uh,
was a John Stewart sketch. They were talking about it's insane that this whole race is tied. And I think either side could look at it and say, my goodness, the other side does this. Why are we only tied with them? And,
right,
and if you're a Democrat, you can look at Trump and say, man, this guy's, accused of paying off a porn star for an affair. How are
right,
we
right.
still tied with him?
But
And
still, the economy still says a lot. I mean, the
yeah,
voter is bright, and we got to take a look at how the gas prices are going to fluctuate during the summer, and the price of goods and services, foods, lumber, construction material, cars, even how car sales are going. So we got to keep an eye out on that. And if the economy, the stock market improves, the chances of a Biden reelection improve, I would think.
well, in the 2020 election is such low hanging fruit. And I know the
Right.
Republicans are going to go there and Trump's going to go there. But on both sides, I just want to see where we at in 2024. I mean, I know, you know, you want to have a good election and all this sort of stuff. I totally get all of that. But
Right.
as a
And
voter,
the
I'm more
pandemic hung over that 2020 election so
right.
much that there was just, I mean, it had to be an aberration. You could just throw out all the records from that, and
Well,
you just just look at this afresh.
I think myself, a lot more voters are really just saying, okay, what's going to happen between 2024 and 2028? I mean, I know 2020, especially on the Republican side, it gets a lot of irks. And I know some Republicans are thinking, man, if we talk about how we got cheated, oh, man, we're going to get all these votes. But how does that help answer the question, what happens in the next 4 years?
Right, right.
And are we
I
going to,
think we're too focused on these personalities and not focused enough eh,
yeah.
on just the state of our country, state of how people just seem to be so polarized. And many people think this, they haven't, America hasn't been this polarized since right before the Civil War.
Well, and I can't imagine why somebody on either side isn't just thinking, man, there's got to be a likable person, if it's a
Right,
senator, House of Rep, up and coming political star that we can throw in there. Could we run off of it? And this is either side. I mean, I know there's some people that are
right.
very polarized to voting Democrat or Republican, but I think there's a huge swath of people in the middle that might say, whoa, here's somebody new. Let's do that. And
Right,
I,
right.
I can
And
hear.
these side issues, Trump's legal problem and Biden's age, that may still be in play for 2020.
and I can hear listeners probably yelling for their podcasts, their phones, however they listen to this, saying, "Well, Robert F. Kennedy, he's out there," but
He's polarizing too. If you
yeah,
read,
right.
any kind of response to anything he tweets,
Well,
you get one side and the other. So I don't think the Kennedy is a uniter as much. That was George W. Bush. I'm a uniter, but yet he was from the Bush family,
oh,
and
and you
but it still worked in that time. And that this was pre 9/11, and
and you're right.
America's changed.
He's polarizing. He's kind of looking back a couple years too, because they know vaccines is a big deal.
Right.
We're out of the pandemic right now. Okay, maybe that's a broader, a better point to make if you're running in 2021, but it's 2024. Once again, we're looking toward the back. And again, right now, hey, I'm not against the third party. I wouldn't be against voting for a third party candidate I believe in, but you got to think the problem is what's the all time record for a third party candidate? Maybe like 12%. I
Right.
mean,
And
if
Ross
Kennedy got,
Perot back in what was that,
yeah,
1992, and that
right.
unseated a sitting president.
Right, and yeah, if he got that much, it might have a
But he
lot
didn't
to
win
say.
any electoral votes. He didn't win any states, but he
Right, right.
shifted
That's what I'm
enough
saying.
totals in certain states like Florida for Clinton to win.
Yeah, I know Kenny wants to win. I get that, and but the only thing he's going to do is maybe shift one way or the other. And I'll tell you,
Right.
it's probably
And,
not
and
going to
if that's the
shift Trump.
question, whose votes is he taking more from, Trump or Biden?
Oh, I think he takes votes away from Trump for sure.
Yeah, I kind of believe that too.
Yeah, because the thought would be is like if you're into the I don't like vaccine camp. I mean, you're probably voting for Biden more anyway, right? Unless you're tired of Biden.
Right.
Yeah, and you're seeing Trump kind of go
And
after
you're
him
an
a little.
anti-vax kind of conspiracy theorist. Well, Trump is up there with the best of the conspiracy theorists.
Yeah,
Just look at his Ukraine-Russian policy, and Kennedy has his own. So yeah, I would think they appeal to the same type of voter.
and you kind of wonder in Kennedy's mind, because again, yeah, I mean, obviously he wants to win. Obviously, he's going to say, "I want to win," but I mean, realistically, he knows he's not going to win. Is he running? Why is he running then? Is he running to get his name out there? Maybe but he's an
For
older guy
four
too.
more
Is he running?
years.
I mean,
He's not a young man either. He's
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
68, 69.
So is he thinking, hey, maybe I could sure I could do it, but if you break off, some party people say, I don't know if we want you back. I mean, you've already
Right,
broken off
right.
once, so I don't
And he
know.
comes from a political dynasty name. And some
Oh,
people said, okay, let's get Biden out of there and let's run Michelle Obama. I don't think that's going to work because we're running through these same family names of you know and like one voter told me after Trump was elected the first time in 2016, I was tired of a dynasty of Clinton Bush. That was why he voted
right.
for, and he wouldn't be your typical Trump voter, but he surprised me in the grocery store line by saying that. And it's kind of true. American voters don't want monarchies, and they don't want these family names being and Kennedy's suffering from the same malady.
And I think there's a lot of people out there. I mean, geez, I'm hearing some more people. Yeah,
Right.
if you're a famous person, being U.S. president is definitely a nice thing you can put in your resume, I guess, for lack of a better term. But you don't pay the president that much. I
Right.
mean, I'm sure there's a decent number of people out there that could probably make a better presidential name, both on the
Right.
Republican and
A,
Democrat
a,
side.
a true statesman that really doesn't think about himself and his reputation, and doesn't break laws, doesn't want to make money for being president. Is there one out there that just cares about his country and wants to keep America America?
Well, I think there's
I
a
don't
lot of
know.
people. I think there's a lot of people out there that say enough of this. Why do I go for
Right.
this? I mean, just think before Trump. I mean, any indiscretion in life, you're done. I mean, if glanced at a
Right.
coworker strangely. I mean, okay, now you're adulterer. And people are like, I don't want to go for this. I won't put myself up to it. You talk about like if you apply for a job, sometimes you're like, oh man, I had to go back for a second or a third interview. Look, this is a what year and a half interview. You know what I mean? And
Right.
there's elections all over the place. I mean, there's probably a lot of people in what's going on with politics right now who probably would do a good job, but like, I don't need this. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not saying guys like Mark Cuban would be a good presidential candidate, but you always hear people like him out of it. But man, why would Mark Cuban want to be president? I
Right.
mean,
I mean, that would be like Trump. It would be a salary cut.
yeah,
But
it's
Trump
not.
Trump gained so much for his ego. I think
Yeah,
that, that kind of made up for it. But yeah, well, we sure got off script, and
yeah, yeah, but this
it
is
looks
good.
like our time is almost up. But
Well, let's mention a couple small things real quick. I know people be interested in. We love our hot dogs here in Youngstown.
yes,
You and I have a mutual former coworker, Tom Anderson, who
right.
loves this hot dog. So I'm sure
And
Tom.
in the spring and summer, that's the time for hot dogs, apple pie, and a certain auto brand.
Yeah, and there's a couple good ones around the valley, but now there's another one. Guy Bill West starts a hot dog place called Heck Yeah.
All right.
It's on 1680 McCartney Road in Youngstown.
Okay,
It's
that's on the east side, heading out toward Pennsylvania, Newcastle on Route 422.
well, get this. They redid a former shipping container
Okay.
into the hot dog stand.
All right. I remember
Yeah,
back when I was growing up, there was a lot of dog houses, they called them, in the valley, and they were on the corner, and they were shaped just like a dog house. And so
yes.
this one will probably um, hearken those older people like me to that uh, chain of hot dog shops, because for years, uh, of course, here in Warren there was the hot dog shop, which is morphed into outlets in Girard and Boardman, and there's one in Venice, Florida now. And of course, Youngstown is history of Jay's hot dogs and the dog houses. So maybe Mr. Lest has tapped into the trend here for the valley.
Yeah, it's centered around something called the Philly dog, which
Okay.
is a chili dog named after the owner's mom. Her nickname is what was Philly. She was legally blind, but she developed a recipe by accident while preparing food for her family. Very interesting. So the chili dog, Philly dog, is coming to the valley. So yeah, intrigued
Well,
to see what
I'm
that's all
definitely
about.
going to head on up there and try it.
Yeah, definitely. And then the other thing I wanted to mention really quick, just wanted to kind of share. If you haven't checked it out yet, over the weekend I was down to Dior Performing Arts Center. Got to check out the Vindies. They were in concert with the Youngstown Symphony Orchestra, and it was a nice vibe there. I really liked it.
Right. The
I had
Dior is a
a
great place to watch a show.
Yeah, I had a freelance photographer with me. He was nudging me. It was interesting. You saw people definitely in rock and roll fan clothes. You definitely saw some older people that were in the hey, we're going to the symphony clothes. But no one was disturbed either way. I thought you definitely had some people that were there more to see a symphony, and more others were there more to see the Vindies. But I think their music kind of melded together good. It was interesting. I saw a similar concept down in Columbus. I drove to check out the Vindies with the Worthington Symphony Orchestra. The stage there was a little bit bigger, so the orchestra was like a little further back from the Vindies. But here, the stage was a little bit smaller, so the band was closer. I think the sound mix was a little bit better that way, and it was a nice back and forth. I mean, the Vindies actually let the orchestra play a couple songs by themselves. And there was a song where Jackie Pokovic did a cover of Louis Armstrong's "World Wonderful World," where it was just her and the orchestra. The band kind of walked off for that concert. So it was a little bit of a mix. Lots of good rock and roll from the Vindies, but a lot of nods to the symphony orchestra. So whoever you were there for, you weren't disappointed. It was a pretty good night.
All right. Well, that there's a lot more great concerts inside and outside venues coming up in the next couple months. I know we've done a few interviews ourselves, and there's maybe a few more lined up. Uh, so
Yeah,
keep watch on the Mahoning Matters for those.
yeah, definitely. Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. I think that's what we say name.
Right.
Longtime country rock band. They're going to be at Robbins on May 14th. I spoke with their keyboardist this afternoon. We'll try to get that up in the next day or two. Yeah, we're always into talking to entertainment that's coming in the area. We should have. I'm glad you brought this up. Last year we had a nice, kind of like your summer guide of festivals and everything. We need to work up that for this year too, because there's a lot of interesting stuff. Our own Kelsey Norris, she was out. We shared some of her videos on social media. Federal Frenzy was in Youngstown over the weekend.
Right. Right.
That's
That's a kickoff for the spring season.
Yeah, it's a nice big rock show too. So yeah, a lot of the neat things to do around the valley. And we definitely want to hear from you. There's some of these events are definitely on our radar right now. Some we just don't know about. And let's be honest, sometimes we don't hear about them as often from you guys. So if you're out there, please let us know. News at mahoneymatters.com. If you don't see it, it's not that we're ignoring it. We just don't know about it. So let us know. We'll definitely try to get that news in. Real quick, and thank you for everyone for your patience. Just kind of a plug for Mahoney Matters. You know, it's an honor to work here. McClatchy has been very generous in bringing back the site. I'll tell you, a lot of times when it's hard to bring back a site unless you know it's making money from day one. But McClatchy has let us build this up. We're really excited about the support from people like you out there. We also are just excited about the people who continue to visit our site every day. We really appreciate that. But, it takes a continued effort. So if you're out there, definitely check our newsletters each day. Click around the stories. If you have any questions, concerns, if you see any issues or anything, let us know. News at mahoneymatters.com. I'll try to get back in touch with you as quickly as possible. Keep supporting us. Even clicking on our site helps support us. But if you can financially give, we operate as a nonprofit. So any of your donations are tax deductible. So it's a great way of supporting journalism in the area. I know you might sit out and say, well, don't you have 3 TV stations in Youngstown and the Tribs out there and the Vindies out there in name and there's a business journal. We understand that there's so much out there, but we're trying to build what we have. I know some of the other outlets out there says, "Hey, support us," or we may not keep the same level. We know we'll keep the same level. We want to add to what we're doing. So, definitely support us. There's information on our site. Each of our stories is our Journalism Impact Fund. And what we try to do is try to get more freelancers. We're trying to build our full-time staff too. I am excited, Guy. I haven't even told you this before our discussion. We have an intern that's going to join us a week for the summer. We're excited to add her. She'll be with us for 10 weeks, so you'll see more coverage from her as well. In addition to Guy's son, Mike Brown, and all the other freelance work we have with us. So a lot of exciting things coming up. And again, continue if you can support us financially, go for it. If you can't, just every day come back to our site. We have a lot of news stories. Definitely click on our stories and share us with your friends. Believe me, it helps out so much. All right. Anything else, Guy, you want to add before we take off for today?
No, I think we are our plans for the podcast kind of took a political turn, but that's all right. We both like to talk politics, and I guess we'll be doing more of that as the year moves on. And
Yeah.
hopefully, stay safe out there. Watch the roads. Uh, find I guess it's going to be a great weather-wise weekend again in the valley. Stay safe. Have some fun, and keep clicking on to Mahoning Matters.
Oh, one other thing. Speaking of summer in the valley, 4:30. Don Helbig. He does some writing about amusement parks in the area, and this weekend is the opening of Cedar Point. I'm going to record an interview with him. We'll try to have up pretty soon too about what to expect with Cedar Point opening. So if you're
Yeah,
going to
my
do that,
grandsons are excited. They're going to spend. They got I think a year, the year-long season pass. So they're going to hit that a few times.
yeah, Don's definitely going to give us a preview of what to expect this weekend at Cedar Point, and there's other parks in the area. You think about,
Pittsburgh, Kenningwood is
yeah,
nice. It reminded me of the old Idora Park in Youngstown. I used to work at Idora, and so I can tell you a few stories about that place.
well, and if you're interested in taking a drive, a little ways away, but Kings Island and Cincinnati is not too
Right.
far away either. So very good. Well, as always, Guy, thanks. We appreciate it. Have a great day, everybody.
Have a
And
good
check
one.
out Mahoney Matters.